We're ready.
Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome to IIW's session today. It's a very special session. We've got Namita Tiwari with us. And she is, in her own words, she's a business storyteller, B2B marketing leader. That's business to business. And she's also a digital and content marketing evangelist. She has rich experience around campaigns, content, and communications. A bit about her: she's an alumni of Symbiosis Pune, India, and she's contributed to the growth journeys of many Fortune 500 firms across her 18 plus years of experience. Wow, Namita, I can't, looking at you, I wouldn't have thought that you've got all that experience. You still look fresh out of Symbiosis Pune. But these Fortune 500 firms, they are quite big names like HCL Technologies, Infosys, Accenture, and Tata. So she has spoken on various industry forums, and she's working on her marketing book that I had initially. I had the pleasure of being introduced to, that Namita had mentioned earlier. So Namita, I am looking forward to your marketing book when it releases. And she is, very interestingly, a very proud United Nations volunteer. So maybe we will get to hear a bit about that later. What is she going to talk about today? She's got a session on marketing in the post pandemic world and how it has changed from before. And I think no one better than Namita herself to tell us more about this. So over to you, Namita.
Thank you so much, Hema, and thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. I'd like to thank Rashmi. I'd like to thank the Inspiring Indian Women Forum for having me here. And we're going to talk about marketing and how pandemic has changed marketing. Pandemic, interestingly, has changed everything. It has changed the way we live. It has changed the way we work. It has changed the way we shop, the way we do things, the way we go about it. Our daily routine has totally changed. So with this session, we're going to talk about how pandemic has changed the world of marketing. And I'm going to share my screen, and I would request the audiences to keep this as interactive as possible. I'd love to hear any feedback, or feel free to interrupt me as well. So I'm going to share my presentation.
While you're doing that, Namita, I had a quick question.
Sure.
Who should be listening to this session of yours? Who would be your target audience? Because you've mentioned it's B2B, so I'm guessing anyone from sole traders, entrepreneurs to big organizations.
I am a B2B marketer, but this session is marketing. Anybody from the marketing industry or even non-marketers, are more than welcome to, hear this and give their feedback. It is also open to general audiences who would want to know what's happening in the industry of, how what's happening in marketing. And the examples and the changes that I'm going to talk about here, the trends that I'm going to talk about here, are applicable to both B2B and B2C. So it's fairly open-ended discussion, open-ended session that we're going to have here. And I've tried to make it very interesting, and I hope
I'm sure you would have.
Yeah, I hope you find it interesting as well.
Yes. B2C. Yeah, B2C. You mean business to consumers, isn't it? Business to customers. That is people like us. Yeah.
Yes, and B2B is business to business. But again, the next 1 hour is applicable to both, and you will find out how as we go ahead.
Cool. Cool. So I'll let you carry on.
Sure. I'd like to start my session with this quote. I'm sure all of you have heard about it, that change is the only thing constant in life. And I just want to invite the audiences to guess who said this. I'll give a hint that it was a Greek philosopher. Would you want to guess what his name was? You must have heard of this saying, right? Change is the only thing constant in life, right?
Yes, we have.
Actually. You want to guess who said this?
Never actually thought about the source of this. So go on, enlighten us.
Yeah, so there's a Greek philosopher called Heraclitus. I hope I pronounced him correctly, the name correctly. So, so going by the saying, that change is the only thing constant, I think the pandemic has shown us that, change is there, and we have to find our ways to manage every change that comes. And of course, there's a good side to it, and there is a very bad side to it also. But we have to manage and, take the challenge of change in our stride. And how do we go about it? And how have we gone about it in the marketing world is what my next few slides will talk about. So I'm moving on to my next slide. So this is the first change, from knowing your customer to knowing your customer cohort. So what I mean by customer cohort is, that with this pandemic, there has been a change in the way customers and consumers have started looking at products or buying or companies. And we as marketeers, it's more important for us to understand which customer cohort are we catering to, is our product catering to, and how do we connect with them in such challenging times. How do we make sure that we reach out to our customer cohort? We know it first. We know which customer cohort is our product and our services mapping up to, and how do we connect with them, and how do we serve them best. So interestingly, there was this research done by Ernst & Young. It's called EY Future Customer Index Research, and they did 5 waves of research across about 15,000 consumers, and this is what they found. The result of the study are these 5 cohorts, and basically this research was done at the start of the pandemic, and this is how the pandemic has basically influenced our customer segments. What has happened, how people are thinking, what they are buying, why they are buying, what are they thinking while buying, before buying. So just to talk a little bit about a few of these, the first one is affordability first. So yes, many businesses have closed down. People's livelihood has been affected. So there are many of consumers who are, for them, budget perhaps is the most important criteria, and affordability is the most important criteria. So 32% of the consumers, as per this research, they are chasing affordability. Then there's health first. I think I belong to the health first because I totally stopped going out completely for shopping. Anybody who would give me at the doorstep is what I would buy for. That would be my buying criteria. So people who've chosen to be extra conscious around their health. Planet first. A lot of consumers have become very, very conscious about companies who are focusing, or brands who are focusing on the environment, and they would rather go for that organic product than something which has chemicals and things like that. So that kind of awareness has taken place in the minds of the consumers. You have society first, again, buying from organizations who are standing up for social causes and who are being very honest and transparent. I think they have created a great appeal in a certain segment of customers. And then, of course, there will always be people who will chase experience first, who are always open for new products and new services and new experiences. But those remain only 12%. So this was a study, and this is how they have identified these customer cohorts. As marketers, so in the post-pandemic time, we need to be vigilant about which customer cohort we are catering. That's the first change. I'd like to move on.
A quick question before you proceed. What do you mean by a customer cohort?
Yes, so customer cohort is a segment of thinking of customers, what they are trying to. Perhaps I would say that a set of customers who are thinking alike, thinking in the same manner, and but this is kind of similar to customer segmentations, but I think in the post-pandemic times, this customer cohorts is what they have started referring to this as. It in the light of pandemic, how has the thinking of customer changed? And what is coming first in their mind? Is it affordability? Is it health? Is it experience? What are they thinking first? So does that answer your question?
Yeah, in a way it does. Thanks.
Yes, and this is specific to this research that EY has done also. So I shared this because this was interestingly done at the start of the pandemic, and this has been quoted at many places. So I thought it would be a good thing to share here. Okay, the second one, I'm sure you would have realized that, from clicking from fingers to voice-based interactions, voice-based digital interactions. So, while most of us are used to, running our fingers on mobiles and, probably mouse clicks and things like that. But now what has happened, I think around the mid of 2020, there's a huge, surge in voice-based digital interactions, voice-based mobile apps. and voice-based interactions has really taken on in a big way, both for buying and for normal searches also. So instead of typing out, people would just speak the word, and of course we've all interacted with Alexa and series of all digital voice assistants. But even buying is done through voice-based searches and voice-based interactions. So there is a particular app which has gained a lot of popularity. It was launched in mid of 2020. Do you want to guess the name of that app? Have you heard about it? Do you want to take a wild guess, or I'll just share the name? I'm not sure if there are other audiences they can also please. Yes.
Sure. Remind me what this app was meant to be doing.
So it was an invite-only app, and it is meant to be talking. It is meant to offer a platform of having virtual chats.
Oh, so is that Zoom? Are we talking about Zoom, the one that we are on at the moment?
No. It's something called Clubhouse.
No, I don't think I've come across that.
Very popular, very popular. I'm sure you would have received an invite. If you have not, I'll share one with you. But do Google about this app. It's gained a lot of popularity, and this is what we are moving ahead to. This is the latest trend in marketing. Voice-based social media. This is basically a social media app which is voice-based. It's not visuals or text-based. It's voice-based, and it allows virtual conference rooms and virtual talk shows to happen. So, and it's a very popular app. Okay, I'll move on to the next. The next trend is that from competing with the companies or competitors to competing with the last best customer experience of your customer. So what I'm trying to say here is that, with the pandemic and otherwise, things have become very, very competitive, especially in the online space. And if you have a user who has gone to a particular e-commerce site and had a better experience than he or she would have at the previous e-commerce site that he would have visited, the switchability of a customer, the customer loyalty is very, fragile. If you don't give a great customer experience, and if your latest customer experience is not as great, people are likely to move on to the to the other product or service which gives them a better customer experience. So so what we're trying to say here is that you're not really competing with a competition. You're competing with the last best customer experience of your customer, and it could be that that while you're trying your best and you've had customers who've been loyal to you for a very long time. But it is imperative that you offer them a great customer experience every time they come to you. So that is the crux of this point. I'll move ahead. Very interesting. Like you can see in this visual, there's a boy with a mask, and he has two options of masks, and he's chosen the one that he's wearing is a different one. So what I'm trying to say here is that there's a huge inclination and expectation from consumers that they expect you to have exactly what they want, and they expect you to do your research. They expect you to know enough about them and give them exactly what they want, and no deviations from what they want. And this is different from some time back where customers would hope that they get what they want. But now they are very, very clear that they're expecting you to give them exactly what they want, and possibly as soon as possible. So the expectations are rising, the expectations are changing in a big way. And how can marketers deliver exactly what customer wants? For this, while there are the regular P's of marketing and there are the regular C's of marketing, to make this happen, it has been recommended that we approach an amalgamated, on an amalgamated parameters. Some of these 4 C's is what content, commerce, community, and convenience. So it is recommended that we, as marketers, try to deliver what customer want exactly in the way they want by showing them the right content at the right time, by reaching out to them at the right selling channels, If you know that you're targeting people who are in a pandemic-like situation, it would be an e-commerce website. If you know that you're selling a car, you know that no one will buy it unless they have seen it. So it will be a hybrid experience. You will have a virtual demo, and then you will of course call the customers and give them a trial. So it will be a hybrid experience. Communities, as marketeers, you would always want communities, because communities bring loyalties. Communities bring more engagement. Communities bring people together, similar thinking people together, and communities make you build, connect with your target audiences, and help you showcase your product time and again. And over here, I'd like to give an example of B2B and B2C. So for B2B community building, a B2B brand will usually do a virtual trade show, or do a kind of a demo running show, online demo running, available to every B2B buyer may want to target. Uh, Similarly, B2C would want to engage with their audiences by doing some mass webinars, and something appealing in a scenario of pandemic would be like doing a webinar of do-it-yourself kits for people who are trying to do things themselves, alienated in their houses, and they want to do it themselves because they don't really want many people to enter their houses. And so the other fourth C is convenience, where you are trying to give benefits of a loyalty program, or you're trying to give combo offers, and playing around in an impactful manner around these four C's is what is going to help marketers give customers exactly what they want. I'd like to move on to the next slide. Okay, so the next trend is that from customers being the center of marketing to customers being the center of customer journey. So in marketing, we do things around the customer, but when we talk about the entire customer journey, it's not just marketing. There is sales, there is after sales, there is pre-sales. There are all parties involved. So the focus has become post-pandemic to make sure that customers are not just the center of marketing, but they're also at the center of the entire customer journey. And how can we go about it? So there are a couple of thoughts that I've put together of how can we go about putting customer at the center of the customer journey. As marketers, we would have a lot of information about the customer, or we should try to get a lot of information about the customer. Data and technology are the twin powers that we must harness. We must possess and harness them to keep the customer at the center of the customer journey. Trying to predict customers' next moves, what can be the next clicks, what can be the next command coming from the customer, expectations, be proactive, connect the dots wherever you see them missing in the customer journey. So I think that is something, these are a few things that you can try, but of course there's no end to how refined and how important role you can give to the customer in the customer journey. So the next trend is from agility being a tech process to agility being a modern marketing approach. So during the post-pandemic times, suddenly there's a surge in the agility marketing approach, and I'd like to explain this. I understand that many people know about it. So an agile marketing cycle looks like this. And basically what we mean by an agile marketing cycle is it is always self-evolving, and it is listening to the customer, and whatever it is listening, the said needs or the unsaid needs, the learnings from that is being fed back into the marketing cycle. It's being fed back into the customer journey. And yes, then then every stage, you measure the results, and whatever the results are, you again feed back the learnings, and it's like a circle that you follow, and it gets better every time. It gets better with every cycle. So that's what agile marketing approach is. To put it a little practically, this is what it looks like when you apply. So basically, you're responding to change, and basically, you're trying your best to give remarkable customer experiences. These are the two main goals of agile marketing, and there are various aspects to it, as you can see. So there is testing, there is data, there is A/B testing, there are emailers, there are customer collaboration points, there are numerous small experiments, individual interactions, team brainstorming, and feedback loops, and then you have the agile marketing model right there. I'd like to move on to the next change, and this is from that brands being differentiated by other factors to brands being differentiated by values. As you would have seen, as you would have seen in the pandemic times, there are many brands who pivoted to the change of pandemic, and not only did they pivoted to the change of pandemic, they actually went out and did something considerable to help people. For example, Ford, GE, and 3M, they repurposed manufacturing capacity, and made the respiratory and ventilators available to fight coronavirus in US. And there's a very popular brand, Nike, which actually changed its tagline to play inside and play for the world, play inside and play for the world. So it's like, how does a brand differentiate themselves? They differentiated themselves by showing solidarity, by showing the right values, showing that they were there for not just their own employees but for the world overall. And this is really, a brand like Tata, what they did to help people in coronavirus, to help the government in coronavirus. We also have many other names that may not be showing on the slide. But the point I'm trying to make is that pandemic has given an opportunity to brands to showcase that they stand for values, and which is beyond the other differentiating factors that they might have stood for before the pandemic. So and there's really no end to this, because there's lots that many of the companies and many of brands are doing, still fighting against the coronavirus. They are doing a lot for many companies. Companies are collaborating together. They are of course doing more than enough for the employees, but they're also doing a lot for the world outside. And this is one of the greatest change that we have looked at, and this is one of the greatest way that a company has differentiated themselves and stood out. We got to know, this was like a litmus test in the market, that which brand is actually great, and which brand is actually sensitive to what's happening in the world, and which brands are not. So I think this is the most important trend that we've observed, and from my research, this particular point stood out big time. And the last trend. So what happened with the coronavirus and the pandemic is that suddenly people could not go out and people could not meet physically. So the center seat, or there's a lot of attention that came onto marketing, because if sales has to have a virtual meeting, they would need enough marketing support to make that meeting happen. And if there is any kind of online reach out to be done, digital marketing, so digital and content marketing became the center of all action during the pandemic and post-pandemic time. And I think while the work was going on and while employees were working from home, I think the kind of responsibility that came on the shoulders of marketing teams was big time, and was a game changer in many ways, especially in digital and online marketing. So there were a lot of webinars, events went online, post-events, pre-event interactions, everything went online. There was a huge surge of marketing and communications team to create the right kind of collaterals to showcase that, yes, while we are supporting our client in this kind of a pandemic, there is a lot that we can do more, and we are active, we are capable. So marketing was the sole center supporting all the functions, especially sales or delivery. and ensuring that the connect with the customer was maintained and across all channels, across all levels. So this has been a great trend that has happened because of the pandemic. And these are a few reference links. These are some researches that are where I, places where I researched about the topic. And there's a CMO study from Duke University, Marketing in a Post-Pandemic World. So many of the findings I have quoted here. I have quoted the Ernst & Young report, Future Consumer Index. And there's a HBR brand marketing article where I got to know about what more the brands are doing for coronavirus and how it has differentiated them from the other brands, and how brands are standing up for the values and not just the other regular differentiating factors as it was pre-pandemic. I think, yeah, that's about it. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Namita. I am so overwhelmed with the kind of information you have actually shared. So important, so much apt in today's times. And yes, the marketing, it has changed the world, how to market. Things have really gone what it was and what it is now. We couldn't believe it 2 years back. We can't believe what changes we have to adopt now. There's a question here. Sarika, go for it.
So actually, Namita, very, very interesting topic actually. And also that we are looking for e-outlet, so it's always good to get to know customer. So you mentioned in one of your slide about, join the dots. You remember there was one of the slide, and it says that you should get to know the journey of the customer. But isn't that important for that purpose, you should get the feedback from the customer? And if yes, at what stage it should be? When do you get the feedback? Initiation, in the middle, or towards the end? And what, if you can elaborate a bit more, that how, if we say, for example, I'm starting something, at what point of time I should get this customer feedback? I'm sure it is quite a very important point in terms of marketing. So yes, if you can elaborate, that'll be very helpful.
Yes, of course. So I'll answer this question two ways. See, if it is the company doing it, companies are expected to take a feedback at every stage, pre-sales, post-sales, and they also conduct secondary researches to understand for what the customer is thinking, what the customer is doing. There are also huge customer voice surveys that companies run. They run it every year, to get feedback from all their accounts and from the various teams that work on the customer accounts. But the second way of answering this question is for an individual or an entrepreneur. I think that's what would help you more. So if you are a entrepreneur, and if you have a certain product, and if you want to know where I should get a feedback from, which stage and how. So I would suggest, if you can get a feedback, try getting a feedback at every stage. So when you're launching, pre-launch, you please send a customer. Usually you can do a quick Google form feedback also. You can try that. Then find out, other where your customer is going at the moment. So if it is find out which are the other apps or other forums where your customer is going, and research around them. What is the behavior that the customer is doing over there? Getting a feedback from customer, if you can, try it and do it at every stage, I would recommend. But I don't know whether you would get that kind of response.
I have another question.
Sure.
Sorry, because it's a very good, it's good to get the customer feedback and all, but isn't that possible that sometimes the customer gives feedback which you're not able to implement or to, give them back? Then what is the situation? Then how does marketing play a role?
So then usually we use it in the roadmap. So if there is a requirement which we cannot cater right now, we will put it in our roadmap. We put it in our plan. Okay, maybe we are not able to cater it today. We will try and cater it in the next version of sorts. So you need to have that in your roadmap, and you also need to constantly evaluate. So every 6 months, evaluate what your customer wants, where your product is, and try to match. as much as you can. What you cannot match, have that in mind for your next version. This
So
is
would
how.
that mean that the crux, where you actually drill down is to the requirements to some extent, what the customer is expecting? Would you
Yes.
mean? Okay.
Yes. A customer has to be at the center of not just the marketing plan, but also the entire customer journey. So if your customer is coming and coming to your platform and it is interacting with a chatbot, then what the chatbot is saying has to map with what the next person who will interact with the customer is going to do. Let's say that on voice call assistant or the call center person, every experience has to be aligned. And if you can manage that, how well you manage that is how well you can manage your customer journey.
Just one, before I say something else, I have to ask this one more question. So when you make the requirements for any kind of thing, right, for your, you have a marketing team who is going to work on this, does that mean that you should ask your customers to give the requirement? Would that mean?
Yes, if you can do that, you must do that. Not every company at every scale can do that. But if you're starting something new, and if you are, let's say if you're starting a Facebook group and you want to know what the members would want to do or would want to have there, definitely please have their feedback, understand what all they want, make a list of all the points together, and then try to map what all you can quickly cater, and then what all you can probably think of catering in 6 months or 1 year down the line.
Right. Very interesting. Something we are trying to do. And then from that perspective, I was asking and trying to read. I myself is into, in IT for donkey years, but then it's nice to get the perspective over the marketing side of it. Really nice. Thank you so much.
And just to share, it's very easy to get feedback if you have members. If you already have members, you just have to prepare a Google Doc feedback form and then make sure you float it around. And you will get, if your members are active, if your customers are actively engaging with you, that's the greatest thing that can happen to you. So yeah.
Right, exactly. Yes. Thank you so much, Namita. It was very interesting. Thank you so much. I would give it to Rashmi now before I ask more questions.
No.
Thank you, Sarika.
Actually, Sarika, we are really very happy with all those questions. We really want more and more questions to be put there so that to understand the topic even much better. And let me tell you that Sarika is in charge of the IIW outlet, which we are going to launch very soon. And
that's
Namita,
the question, I will definitely get in touch with you, Namita.
Yeah. And Namita, we would really want you to give us more and more training, because we have lots of women joining e-outlet, and we want them to understand the knack of business and all the way the world works today, in business, as a women entrepreneur, first timers, how they should start. And, we would really want you to continue with this. And it'll be a pleasure for inspiring Indian women to have such qualified people as you on our forum, and especially that we are launching IIW outlet very soon.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And yes, what we are going to do is we will definitely organize one more session with you in the coming days. And maybe because of the bank holiday, it's been a little,
no problem. It's fine.
Thank
you so much. Thank you so much. Great information. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.